Ashton Jeanty officially declaring for the NFL draft in 2025. We knew this was coming. We've already put him on the Jupiter board.
The Jupiter men. Jupiter is so large, every planet in the solar system could fit inside it. There are no bigger monsters than the Jupiter men.
Jupiter men, by the way, if you missed this debate of a face-off fantasy football core episode, London versus BTJ, it got heated. Our next debate's going to probably be Bucky versus Breece Hall or Bucky versus Chase Brown. Vote what you would prefer to see in the next episode of the Fantasy Football Court. This one got heated. People are just absolutely cemented. It's not even close. It's BTJ. Are you out of your mind? It's London. London all the way. I mean, the whole point of these court cases here on the Fantasy Football Show are to find the most competitively aggressive type of cases we can find. And I think nothing's better than Bucky versus Breece Hall. Bucky versus Chase Brown. Those are going to be very, very tough battles. But on to the news real quickly. Ashton Jeanty officially declares for the NFL draft. We were very aware this was coming, but it gives us time to talk about this man and say, is he going to produce top 5 to 10 running back numbers as a rookie? But Smitty, we can't do this. Smitty, basically, is this thing working? Basically, Smitty, MHJ has made it so that we can't ever do this again. We can never trust rookies again. I'm in my feelings. I'm in my feelings and I'm very upset about it, Smitty. I'm not going to do it again.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
Looks like Bucky versus Chase Brown is the current leading potential next Fantasy Football Court episode. But if you want it to be Breece Hall versus Bucky, keep voting. But it's down to Bucky. It's down to either Breece Hall or Chase Brown. So you vote on what you want that court case to look like. Jeanty, look, you can say what you want about, last year, Christian McCaffrey, Marvin Harrison Jr., MHJ last year, Smitty. MHJ, he failed us. How can we trust a rookie as high as 12, 13, 14, 15 overall again? You can run away all you want from the past, but we look to the future. And Ashton Jeanty's the future. I don't care what MHJ did or didn't do. It has no relevance to this young man right here that has no connection or correlation to him. It doesn't matter if rookies have failed. I don't care if rookies fail us 3 years in a row. I'll always be looking for the next rookie to become the next Saquon Barkley right away, out of the gate, out of the box, from Jump Street. And Jeanty fits the bill. And while MHJ failed everybody, even though it's a completely different position, there's a situation there that unfolded in Arizona, where Kyler Murray can't see over the offensive line. Kyler Murray hates Marvin Harrison Jr. Call of Duty comes out with a new iteration of their product every once in a while when we need Kyler Murray focused. This is a Kyler Murray problem. And if anybody thinks MHJ won't become an elite player, you're out of your mind. You're welcome here, but you're still, there's something wrong. And we'll help you fix whatever's wrong, but you need to reevaluate your prospect, situation there that you got going on there. But Jeanty is absolutely a top 5 to 10 running back when he enters the NFL. The only thing that would cause some sort of problem where we don't know what we're looking at and we're confused and it's cloudy is landing in a bad location. But the protection measure we have in place here, the safeguard, if you will, is that he's going inside the top 10. And a team that has a top 10 pick is not going to waste it on Ashton Jeanty inside the top 10 if they don't need the position filled and have a complete vacancy and hole at the position. So Therefore, it is very, very hard to imagine him falling into a cloudy situation. The only one that kind of scares me, and let me see if I could find the 2025 NFL draft order. 2025 NFL draft order as it stands right now. We have an update because of the games that transpired here in Week 18. Let me see if I can find a better, like, all-in-one clipping. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it here. This is from NFL.com. This would be the top 5 picks. Let's just throw that up for right now until I find something that's a little more aesthetically pleasing. Here we go. So, top 5 picks entering... Oh, that's entering Week 18. God, where is it? I know what it is, but I want to have it. Here's the updated draft order. Let me put this up. Tennessee Titans. There we go. Okay. So the Tennessee Titans, who hold the number 1 overall pick, they're not going Ashton Jeanty. They're not. We don't have to worry about that landing spot. It wouldn't be a bad one, but it wouldn't be a great one either. So Cleveland Browns are very, very intriguing. Very intriguing landing spot. New York Giants, New England Patriots, Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the top 5. I'm really intrigued by the Jacksonville Jaguar number 5 overall landing spot for Ashton Jeanty. I think that would be a phenomenal place for him to go. You've got BTJ stretching the field. You've got Trevor Lawrence, who I think is still a dog inside. I know he's unraveled. He's dealing with a new, potentially new offense being constructed there with the new coaching staff again. But I really like him. And Jeanty would be great in Jacksonville. I don't want him... You don't have to worry about him going to New York if New York gets their hands on a quarterback, but they're sitting at the 3 spot. Cleveland, could they go QB? They could and they should. They could and they should. So they aren't taking Jeanty, says IP, because of ETN and Tank Bigsby. Those guys they can't hold up his jockstrap. And I'm not saying the Jaguars take him. That's an intriguing spot for me. But do they take him? I don't know. But to think that someone would stray away from the next Adrian Peterson because of Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, you got another thing coming. That doesn't scare anybody. That doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare anybody away. This comment doesn't make sense. But it doesn't mean that they're going to take him. There's a lot of other positions of need. So I would say at the end of the day, the odds of him going in the top 5 aren't great. I think Jacksonville's intriguing. My concern would be Chicago. My concern would be the 49ers at 11. Let me pull up the entire draft order and put that on screen. I'd be very, very concerned. Here's the entire... Let's put up the entire top 15. Top 15 NFL draft order as of right now. Actually, let's do top 16 because the Cardinals at number 16. Tennessee, Cleveland, New York Giants, Patriots. Here we go. This is a whopping top 16. Raiders, intriguing spot. Like, let's say they were to go get Fields. Let's say they were to bring in Cousins if he gets released or when he gets released by the Falcons in March. Then all of a sudden you got Fields or Cousins, and then they could take Ashton Jeanty. It would be a good spot. The Raiders would be a good spot for Ashton Jeanty. The New York Jets aren't taking him. The Carolina Panthers aren't taking him. They just extended Chuba Hubbard, and even though Jonathan Brooks tore his knee again, he's still there. New Orleans, I don't think they would take him. Chicago's a concern. I think San Francisco's... I'm deathly afraid that the Niners are going to ruin Scatterboo or Jeanty. And when I say ruin, I say it because Christian McCaffrey, while he's not going to ever be the same again, mark my words, he'll never be the same player again. Not maybe for a string of games, maybe for one game, maybe for a month, and then he gets hurt again. He's done as a long-term elite top 5 overall player. He's done. He could flirt with those numbers on rare occasion or a small sample size. But he's still going to be there existing in San Francisco. So this is not a good situation. We don't want Scatterboo shoved onto that Niner roster and buried. We don't want Ashton Jeanty in a cloudy environment. Chicago's another place I just don't want him to go because Chicago's ruining everything they touch. Now, Swift did have a pretty good year. So if Jeanty went there, he would find a way to produce, but I don't want him in Chicago. I don't want him in a piss poor situation for an organization that is run by non-football people, as my boy says all the time. Non-football people. Trying to pretend they're playing house. They're playing house. They're playing house with football. They think they're knowledgeable people in Chicago. They don't. It's Mickey Mouse over there. So Chicago and San Francisco are the only concerning spots. Dallas would be phenomenal, but they probably got to trade up. However, we just don't know if Jeanty could fall to 12. He could. Don't put it back past Miami Mike McDaniel to take him at 13, which would be a kick to the nutsack of Devon Achane's value. They could coexist in it to a degree, but not the same way we would want. Atlanta Falcons aren't taking him. Cardinals, probably not. You never know. Benson didn't exactly rise up like a phoenix, no pun intended, here in Arizona, but he's still a very good prospect. Whether Connor's, in Arizona or not, we'll see. The Colts are not taking him. So really, it's like maybe Miami in some crazy, weird way. They want speed. Mike McDaniel loves speed. Jeanty, they want this quick, hard-nosed running back to kind of be a compliment, or have Achane be a compliment to him, and do kind of what they did the year prior to this year. This year we just played, where they had Mostert running for 20-plus touchdowns, and they still had Achane exploding and being an absolute massive home run hitter. There's even the more I look at this, there is risk. The protection you have baked in to an early first-round draft pick as a running back is that teams need them in order when they draft them. It's just Shanahan's the wild card, and Chicago could use him for sure. I just don't want him in a crappy situation. I want Jacksonville. I want the Raiders. I want the Dallas Cowboys. I do not want Miami. Those will be my initial stabs at it. 17 through 32. Let's put that up on the board. 17 through 32. Of course, Jeanty's not falling to 32. Jeanty's not falling probably even to pick 12. But just kicking around the idea that these teams that might need an RB could potentially trade up to get him. Let's take a look at that angle. Like, if someone's got the 19 and they really want Ashton Jeanty, they can move up. Cincinnati, they don't need him. Seattle, they don't need him. Houston Texans. I mean, Mixon probably coming back, and look, he failed Fantasy Football Worlds, but there's still probably some gas left in the tank. I don't know that the Texans will be going down that road. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no. Denver Broncos, maybe. They could trade up to get Jeanty. I could see Sean Payton doing that. Look, Alvin Kamara. This is kind of the next version of Adrian Peterson meets Alvin Kamara meets any running back you want to name, even if the style of play is a little different. This is Ashton Jeanty, the next Adrian Peterson. So it's tough to say what's going to happen there if let's say Denver moves up. I think they certainly would take Ashton Jeanty at 21, but he's not falling there. Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, look, Najee's hitting free agency. You never know. Rams, I don't think so. Packers, probably not. Chargers, definitely a possibility, but would they move up to take him? If he fell to 25, Ashton Jeanty's as good as gone, but he's not falling to 25. He's not falling to... It's highly unlikely that Jeanty falls to 12. Baltimore, no. Commanders, never know. I'd take him if I was in charge over there. Adam Peters knows talent, so I'm sure he would too. Minnesota, this is my dark horse for either Scatterboo or Dylan Sampson or for Ashton Jeanty. If we could get this Minnesota Viking offense, this very potent offense, and Aaron Jones, don't forget, is a free agent. So Najee and Aaron Jones are departing, most likely. And remember that Najee was not picked up on his fifth-year option. So they definitely weren't wanting to bring him back. And he played well enough. Maybe they wish they could go back and undo that, but they won't. They can't. He's probably gone. Aaron Jones probably gone, plus he's older. It's interesting to think that if Minnesota felt like they had everything they need, let's say they lose because they can't run the ball, they may move up to grab him. I mean, it would be interesting. It's one of my my dark horse landing spots, but a trade would need to happen. Buffalo Bills, probably not. Philadelphia Eagles, no. KC, they're not trading up for a running back. They barely want to bring any other surrounding talent around. They just they go with what they have. Detroit Lions, no, they don't need it. So, like, really, Minnesota, I like Washington. Denver's a sneaky team interested, I'm sure. Arizona, I don't think so. But, you know, what a talent. Put Jeanty, I mean, I'd be to the moon as a Cardinal fan, but I don't want Jeanty there for fantasy football purposes. Well, you know what? I mean, the running game is great in Arizona. It's just a matter of, like, Benson, it'd be the death of Benson. But Benson is not holding back Ashton Jeanty. But it's just, you wonder if the Cardinals would, they probably look at this like, hey, we invested in Benson, we still want to see, you know? So probably not going to happen. Dallas Cowboys. So the lead dogs are the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Jaguars, and then trades need to happen, Denver and Minnesota. You know, going through it, I will say that him being a lock inside the top 10, it doesn't feel as locked as before I even started this show today. Like, I feel like just looking at the team needs, it could happen to where it's like everybody says this is a top 10 talent, but what team's going to actually take him? He could slip to 12. Jerry would be out of his mind. And let me just tell you this. I think Jerry's suffered so much ridicule and lambasting over not bringing in Derrick Henry, not drafting a running back, not bringing in Saquon Barkley, not bringing in Josh Jacobs. He's heard it over and over and over and over again. I think it's ingrained in his head. So much so that even Jerry can't forget it. Even Jerry can't dodge that trash being thrown at him constantly, and rightfully so and deservedly so, about not grabbing a running back draft or trade. I think there's no way Jerry walks away from Jeanty at 12. No way. So at the end of the day, 12. I don't think Jeanty can fall past 12, but I don't necessarily think he's as much of a lock to go inside the top 10. Just breaking down the new order. You know, breaking down the fact that these teams all need quarterbacks. Tennessee's going to go quarterback. They fired their GM today. They're going to go attack the quarterback position. Don't think Levis is the future at all, or you're not watching ball. Cleveland, they should draft one of Sanders or Cam Ward, but they probably won't because they're married to Deshaun Watson's contract, and they're going to try their best to build around him. Now, Jeanty could go too. Travis Hunter could go too. Ted McMillan could go too. Any one of those three could go too. They could draft offensively. I mean, who knows? They could trade down. They probably would trade down. They'd be smart to trade down. If you've got a top 2 pick, you better at least trade down to New York at 3 because they'll overpay to get one of those quarterbacks. So my guess is that if Cleveland decides not to draft the heir apparent of Deshaun Watson, who would just replace Deshaun Watson by week 3 or 4 if he didn't start over Deshaun Watson, because Watson's already had a setback. So keep in mind the setback that Deshaun Watson just had with his Achilles. He might not be ready for week 1. So this is Chicago's way of saying we're going to get out of the Deshaun Watson game for good. And even though we're married to his contract, you guys will be so excited to see Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders on the field that you'll forgive us. And the world will stop talking about his contract. Just like the world completely stopped talking about how Shanahan and John Lynch completely punted Trey Lance. And that's half of that is not Trey Lance's fault. They punted Trey Lance. They stumbled upon Brock Purdy because of Adam Peters, who's now the GM over in Washington, mind you, making magic over there. So they punted Trey Lance, and if they didn't stumble upon Brock Purdy, we'd still be making fun of the Niners, John Lynch, and Kyle Shanahan, and they wouldn't even be in San Francisco. They'd be fired. If they didn't stumble upon Brock Purdy, they would be fired at this point. So what is the best cure for a Deshaun Watson contract debacle and trade debacle? Getting that next man up. So definitely think the Cleveland's not out of the mix for drafting a QB at 2. But if they did want out, the Giants or the Raiders, 6 or 3, would trade up to 2 to get that number 2 overall pick. I don't think Tennessee's trading because Tennessee needs a quarterback. Tennessee firing their GM today made it very apparent that they want to build. They're done playing games with their current roster. It's time to get serious and build. You don't fire your GM and go through all of that song and dance if you're not saying, let's start with the quarterback. So I do believe Tennessee will stay put and draft a quarterback. I do believe that Shedeur or Cam, whichever one goes 1, the other will go 2, and it's either going to be the Giants or the Raiders that trade up if Cleveland doesn't take a quarterback. So if Cleveland moves down to the Raiders 6, Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders.
Mashed potatoes!
Yep. That would be pretty phenomenal. If the Giants swap with the Browns 2 and 3, is it possible that the Browns take Ashton Jeanty at number 3 overall? I'm fine with that. Look at Ford. Look at Chubb falling into the end zone constantly. It's a good rushing attack. And I think they can solve the quarterback problem another way. I don't think they'll be in the mix for a QB next year as well. So it's not like they have to solve it entirely now. I don't love Cleveland's quarterback situation right now for Jeanty for the short term, but for the long term, I think Cleveland ends up being a pretty decent spot. Do I like the Raiders better? I do. Why? Bowers. Now, the problem with the Raiders at 6, let's say if they draft Jeanty at 6, they don't trade up for a quarterback. They've got to get Fields. I don't even love the Cousins idea, but Cousins or Fields, I prefer Fields. Fields, Jeanty, Bowers. Fields, Jeanty, Bowers? I mean, come on.
Let him cook.
Does anybody have a problem with that fantasy-wise? Fields, Jeanty, or Bowers? I'm sorry, Fields, Jeanty, and Bowers. I apologize. I like that. I like that. Okay, yeah, and then we got the wide receivers. The receivers are a big part of what's going on here. New England, they don't need a quarterback. They're going to take Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter. And one of the two will fall, I believe, to number 4 overall. They will have their wide receiver. I think it's possible that the Cleveland Browns don't trade, I suppose, and take a wide receiver. But if they trade with the New York Giants, which is an easy swap, if you don't want quarterback, you swap with New York, and then you take Travis Hunter or Ted McMillan at 3. There's no reason for the Browns to trade or to not trade and take Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter at 2. There's no need because the Giants are not trading up to get a receiver, especially if the Browns trade with the Giants. It is for the quarterback. So, and you might say, well, if they know that the Browns want Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter, maybe Smitty, the Giants will say, we'll just wait for our quarterback. We'll be fine. Not so fast because the Raiders could say, hey, give us the 2 and just step right in front of the Giants. So that number 2 is going to be very coveted, and I think it's damn well traded at this point. It's as good as gone. It's as good as gone. Fields to Seattle, yeah, that would be a great landing spot. That's the one we kind of almost like quietly the most on this channel because he could throw to JSN, he could throw to DK Metcalf, he'd have Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. Grubb is out in Seattle, which I think a little bit knee-jerk reactive, but maybe he goes somewhere. And like if Washington, let's say, loses Kingsbury to the Chicago Bears as a head coaching option, and keep in mind that Kingsbury was Caleb Williams' quarterback coach like 1 year ago at USC when Caleb was in his final year. So they're like this, and there's a strong chance that that conversation comes up again. And let's say Kingsbury left for another head coaching job, then Grubb would be a decent addition in Washington. And for anybody that says Grubb's bad, he had Geno Smith throwing the football. And JSN was electric. So I don't want to hear that Ryan Grubb's trash. He's not trash. I like Ryan Grubb a lot. Ryan Grubb is still learning the NFL game in a sense. So I love Grubb. I think Grubb would be great in Washington. He'd be great in a couple of different places. Put Grubb in. I mean, you might lose Slowick over in Houston, put Grubb in Houston to try and fix that passing attack led by C.J. Stroud, who's been very, very bad lately. So there's a lot of places Grubb could go. Hopefully he gets another shot. Maybe he doesn't, but I hope he does. Okay. So let's see here. Some of you guys, it was stuff that you say, you got it. You keep getting moderated by the mods and stuff. Like, stop saying what you're saying. Okay. Where were we at? Jeanty and MHJ are the same caliber of failure, to be honest, bro. Jeanty and MHJ are the same caliber of failure. This is what I love. Lucas, tell everybody. Please, Lucas, tell everybody. This is the kind of, no offense, Lucas, the scared Scotty mentality that might have people nudge Jeanty down comfortably into round 2. Jeanty and MHJ are the same caliber of failure. Like that is scared about from one unrelated thing to another, Lucas. You're connecting dots that aren't there, pal. And I hope you tell everybody. I hope you have a lot of influence too. I want that ADP to drop, because the truth is, any rookie you take is going to have risk, but damn do I want more upside and less risk on any player I draft. So let's shove Jeanty down as far as we can. What a fun topic, though. We're here, NFL draft order. This obviously will change with the teams in the playoffs, but this is the current order as it stands right now. Very excited to talk NFL draft going forward on this channel. Such a fun topic. Such a fun topic. Again, don't forget the debate we had. I think we settled. Is it? Can I get one more vote? Can I get one more vote? Do you guys want the Fantasy Football Court episode, which will probably be tonight or tomorrow? Do you want it to be Bucky Irving versus Chase Brown, or Bucky Irving versus Breece Hall? Please vote. Bucky's in it. He's in the vote. I don't need you to tell me who you like more. I never even tell you about Bucky. No, we told you about Bucky. We told you about Bucky. You don't tell us about Bucky.
Let's go! Mashed potatoes!
Yep. Get buckied. 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 Oh, Bucky.
Yeah.
So far, it looks like the vote's coming down to Irving versus Brown, according to the vote. Bucky versus Brown. Okay, that's what it's going to be. Let me go over here and put these two gentlemen on screen. It's not happening now, by the way. It's not happening now, but it will happen tonight. And tonight or tomorrow, but probably tonight. Let me put Bucky on here. Get buckied, everybody. If you haven't gotten buckied, take a Bucky bath, if you will. Where's my Bucky graphic when I need it? Oh, Bucky! Here's Brown. What's Brown done for you? Look, Brown deserves a little bit of a debate here too. Okay, so let's not act like Bucky's just gonna blow him out of the water in this little debate we're about to have, okay? Because Brown has been phenomenal this year. These are two very, very, very comparable players. I have a feeling the majority of you are going to lean Bucky, but that partially is due to how much you love getting Buckied. But this show will go down tonight probably, so get ready for it. Phone lines are open to talk. I want to talk Ashton Jeanty, so if you have another question at all, I'm fine answering it. You don't have to not call, but the first 2 or 3 calls, let's make them initially start out. Your conversation at least starts out with Ashton Jeanty, because that's what the show is.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
And again, make sure you're here tonight around midnight for the Bucky versus Chase Brown court case. Bring your court attire. And let's go over to this screen right here. So dial in if you guys got anything. Travis, you're live. What can I do for you?
Yeah, so on Jeanty, what's the absolute lowest you'd see him fall? Do you see him falling out of the top 10 or 15 at the most?
Oh, as I said, I think 12. I don't think there's a chance in hell that Jerry doesn't take the ridiculing to heart at some point. Like it's got to be ingrained. Like he's one of those guys that like you could say, hey Jerry, why didn't you bring in Derrick Henry? Well, we didn't know he's. I think his in so many words he said we didn't know he probably wouldn't have done this good on the Dallas Cowboys. We've been playing so bad. He probably wouldn't have done good. Like, not factoring in that, like, hey, maybe you wouldn't be playing bad if you had Derrick Henry playing well. But he was, like, trying to weasel his way out of it. And I think there's nothing better than for Jerry. This is how Jerry's world works, is at the end of the day, you wanted Derrick Henry, good thing I went in this direction because now I solved the problem. I really believe Jerry, in his mind, this is a problem that if he solves it, he fixes some of his wrongs somehow. I don't think there's a shot in hell he slips past Jerry Jones at 12. He's just too good of a prospect. And not to mention, there'll be pressures that he'll be reading, looking at, being told. There's just, if Jeanty were to fall, really Jeanty belongs in the 5 to 9 range. Locked in, like talent-wise. This is the next Adrian Peterson. This is the next Saquon Barkley. There's just no debating that his numbers tell you that now. Whether he comes in and fails or something, that could be a ton of different situations. He could get hurt. He could get drafted into San Francisco with a crowded backfield. He could go to Chicago and get ruined. But if he falls to 12, I don't think Jerry, there's just no way in my mind. Is it possible? Yes. But I'm just saying, spitballing, that I think this is not. And like Miami Mike McDaniel, I fear that if he had a chance to take him at 13, he would. And then we'd be in here singing our sob stories about Achane and trying to convince ourselves that Achane will be okay. And I think he would to a degree, and we'd have some hope for it, but it's not what we want. Like, we don't want to be facing that battle of trying to convince our own, selves that Achane will be okay with Jeanty on roster. And we don't want that for Jeanty. We don't want him. We want Jeanty getting everything. That's why I think if I was to pick, like if you ask me, Smitty, where would you want Jeanty to go if I could just pluck him up and set him onto a roster? I really like my favorite spot. I gotta say, I like Jacksonville. I really like Minnesota. That's really good. I love Dallas. I don't know which one I like more. I think Dallas is really intriguing.
Minnesota might be the best place, but not for fantasy numbers.
I don't know.
Best place for him to go.
I don't know though. Aaron Jones was great. It's just he's kind of dropped off. Like, he was fantastic. I don't know. I got the numbers up. Let me pull it up here. Aaron Jones.
Did he sign? Aaron Jones?
No, he's a free agent. He's a free agent. He's as good as he's him and Najee are the biggest free agent running backs in this class. I got it up on the board right here. But if we come back to if my memory serves me correct, let's go through week 4, weeks 1 through week 4. at the running back position, where's Aaron Jones? I could be wrong. He's number 5. So he's number 5. He had 18.9 in week 1, 11.8 in week 2, 25 points, fantasy points in week 3, 17, and he's a top 5 running back through the first 4 games. Let's take that to week 6. Week 6, Aaron Jones is starting to fade a little bit. He's 15. So 2 weeks later, he drops to 15. Through 3 weeks, let's dial it back. Through 3 weeks, Aaron Jones is number 8. So that first month of football is probably the best time to capture it. But it was there. Like, I remember it being there. And if we go through week 10, let's say, Aaron Jones ranked down at 16. But he had, if I go through week 7, it's like tricky because he had some good games. And Aaron Jones, if you go through week 7, number 11. But he was in the top 5 through the first month of football. But being as old as he is, it's just like, I think it doesn't look like the best fantasy environment, but I think it is a really good one for fantasy. But I agree with you that Dallas and Jacksonville are probably better. Those are my 3 favorite landing spots. I don't trust, I do trust Sean Payton a little bit because of what he's done with Alvin Kamara. And if it wasn't for him, Alvin Kamara wouldn't have got his shot to do what he did. So like at the same time, we got to understand that. But I still think right now, the way we are seeing Denver run the ball, it scares me a little bit. But if he landed in Denver, I would convince myself without being like deceptive with my own like feelings and evaluation, like that there's a lot of upside. There's just more risk of, okay, what if he doesn't use him right? But how would you draft Jeanty, even if you're Sean Payton, and not use him as the full-time every down back? I think Sean Payton would definitely lean on him. You gotta say to yourself, Sean Payton's dealing with a bunch of mediocrity right now. That's why he's rotating it so much. Like, none of them are great. Like, even Javonte tore his ACL. He's never really been the same. It's a sob story. I love Javonte, always will. But he went a different direction, and I don't blame Sean Payton for rotating it out. You get Jeanty, it's a whole different thing. But I think at the end of the day, Jacksonville just excites me so much because they have the tripod. They have Trevor Lawrence, they have BTJ, and then Jeanty. You look at Dallas, they have the tripod. They have Dak, they have Lamb, and they have Jeanty. You look at, what was my other one that I loved? Minnesota. You got the quad pod. You got the quad pod. You got Addison. You've got JJ. You've got Darnold. We'll find out what he is. I don't know. We'll see if he turns into a pumpkin in the playoffs here. But this is a good team that you put Jeanty on. I think he would thrive. Jacksonville and so I guess at the end of the day, I agree with kind of where I think you were headed. Like, Minnesota's good in that, and like if you're comparing everybody in the league, the landing spots. But I think at the end of the day, give me Dallas or give me Jacksonville. Those are my 2 ideal landing spots for long term, for short term, for just volume. And probably Dallas is the best because there is some competition. Not that anybody's holding Jeanty back. He goes to Jacksonville like he's the starter. Like, there's no debate. But there is some competition there. But I think so. At the end of the day, if we put a hierarchy on it, it probably would be Dallas. Then it would be Jacksonville. Then it would be Minnesota. Then it would be, I guess, the Raiders are tough because if they take Jeanty, then they have to have Fields or Cousins or something. So right now it's kind of a question mark. But if they had Fields, so if LV plus Fields, I would probably say is comparable to Dallas and Jacksonville, tied.
Yeah, and if you look at the list of the draft here, there's not too many teams in that second half of the first round that would even jump up to pick them. Atlanta doesn't need one. Cincinnati we don't think wants a running back. Seattle doesn't need one. Mixon's probably with Houston, so on and so on. Like you said, Denver maybe. But
we get in a time machine though.
I guess Pittsburgh, if Najee goes.
If we get in a time machine though, and we go back to the Detroit Lions picking Gibbs, I bet you 90% of the fantasy football population and analysts everywhere would have said Detroit's not trading up for a running back. They don't need one. You know, and
they just signed Montgomery, right?
Yeah, so I think that it's hard to say that we know exactly, this team would or wouldn't. San Francisco at 11 because they got McCaffrey. I mean, don't be so quick. Yeah, or even. I mean, like the Jets, we think that's not an option because they got Breece Hall. You don't know. Like, you just don't know what a GM or a coach is thinking. If I was the GM of the New York Jets or the head coach, and Jeanty was there at number 6, or what? I'm sorry, number 7. I'm not letting him go. And I know that's not what a Breece Hall would want to hear. But if I'm running a football team, I'd have exactly what the Detroit Lions have, and I'd get ridiculed for it at first. But guess what I'd do? I would run it the same way the Lions are doing it, and everybody'd be like, "Damn, that's really hard to stop." So people can say whatever they want, like, "Oh, they got this guy, they can't do that." They can do whatever the hell they want, and they will.
Well, and that's the thing is that they'll say, "Oh, they have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis there," but it's like they could spin them off easy enough. It's like you can't rule these things out.
Yeah, and again, if LV misses out, like, make a very, very clear point here. LV's currently drafting at 6. LV can't draft a quarterback. I mean, they could take like Ewers or, and a guy will rise between now and draft day. I promise you, whether it's Ewers or whether it's Milroe, whoever, someone's going to climb into the 2-3 conversation. And just like J.J. McCarthy was not an afterthought, but he was like 15 plus overall selection by far. He climbed into the conversation briefly as the number 1, number 2, or number 3 overall pick. Okay, so let's not pretend that Milroe or Ewers, whether you like them or not, can't climb into this LV6 overall conversation. We're just getting into NFL draft content. I've been doing this for 23 plus years professionally, doing player scouting, all that on NBC and CBS Sports Radio, 19 straight years, doing this thing from a content perspective, doing all the rookie breakdowns, 23 years. Every single year in the 11th hour, a quarterback rises up, a receiver, somebody in the skill position context will climb up in a place where everybody would say, "Oh, that can't happen. That can't happen." I remember Cam Newton was nothing close to the number 1 overall pick in January, February, March. And sure enough, he climbed up as fast as can be. Think of it like a presidential debate. Like back when Obama wasn't even known really, and how quickly he climbed. People love the person that no one's heard of, and it's like, this is something exciting, and they get behind it, and then the hype train builds. That was like what was happening with McCarthy in a way. And Sick Nasty, I know you love McCarthy. I'm not saying that he's not going to find a place or whatever. I hope McCarthy, like I said this to Sick Nasty, I would trade Kyler Murray for McCarthy, JJ McCarthy, just to get rid of Kyler's contract, number 1, that alone. And 2, I'd rather take a stab that McCarthy could become a better player for MHJ and the offense. So I don't hate JJ McCarthy. I'm just merely pointing out that JJ McCarthy climbed up the draft board as quick as some of these other guys in previous years, like Cam Newton. He was in that there was a time where there were reports going, the Bears could be looking at JJ McCarthy. It was a very short amount of news cycle on it, but it got to that point. So Milroe, whether you like him or not, or Ewers or whoever, could climb into the 6 overall. But my whole point was, then Travis, I'll let you go, let you talk. If 6 is not a quarterback spot and they can't trade up to 2 to get either Sanders or Cam Ward, the 2 current top 2 quarterbacks. And you got people right now writing these Mickey Mouse articles about how, I don't know, I'm hearing that NFL scouts around the league are saying that they don't think Shedeur Sanders even has first grade value anymore. Yeah, we heard the same thing about Penix Jr. And what did I tell you? In January, it's January now, I'm going to tell you this now, Shedeur Sanders is going in the top 5. Like, let's stop with this nonsense of trying to beat everybody to a report or say it first or be bold or say something stupid. Yeah, let's say something stupid first. Stop with the Shedeur Sanders is in a top 5, top 10 first round pick. It's absolutely embarrassing. Stop writing it. So Shedeur, if Shedeur's gone by this 6th pick, if he's not, he's an Oakland Raider. He's a Las Vegas Raider. Like Shedeur wants to go to the Raiders. The Raiders want him. And Deion Sanders will probably follow him to coach this team who doesn't have a coach. Now, it'll be interesting if the Raiders fill their coaching vacancy before the NFL draft and then take Shedeur. That will be wild. But they may leave the coaching vacancy part open. It's such a risky thing, right? Because if you're the Raiders and you're watching Vrabel and all these other guys get scooped up and you don't know that Shedeur is going to land you screw yourself. So you almost have to, go after a head coach. So it's going to get interesting. But if the Raiders move up to 2 early on in the process, then they may not sign a coach, and then Deion's going to say, I'm coming. I'll be your head coach. Don't worry about it. I'll be your head. You draft my son, I'll be there before my son shows up. Like, that's what it's going to be. But if for any reason the Raiders, my whole point here, my long-winded answer, if the Raiders miss out on Shedeur and Cam, they need Fields. But if they get Fields, or I don't like Cousins, but they need a quarterback. That quarterback plus Jeanty would be unbelievable. If Jeanty goes to LV with no quarterback, it's still good, but it's not as great as it could be. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, and with Jeanty too, I was just looking at the draft order. Do you think Pittsburgh would be a team that would jump up for him? Because I could see if they're really that married to Russell Wilson, Najee's leaving. He'd be a fit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been known to jump up in the draft to grab guys, usually defensive guys, but
absolutely. I think
trying
Pittsburgh
to
could
play out the scenarios here.
Chargers could be as well. Chargers and Pittsburgh are two teams we didn't really talk about trading. They'd have to trade up, but if they traded up for Jeanty, absolutely. I wonder about the reason I don't know about Harbaugh is he's kind of a rah system guy. Look, the Chargers have been playing great. Harbaugh's done a great job. He's a wild man, and I don't understand a thing he says half the time, but he obviously can rally the troops. I mean, let's credit where credit's due. But he does seem to be like a system guy, and I don't know if he would see the value in trading up. Now, do I see him drafting Scatterboo at price without trading up? Sure.
Yeah.
Do I see him doing that?
Well, I think too, there's other guys.
Yeah. Just keep in mind, trading from the 25 or 20, where the Steelers at, roughly, they're going to be right around, let's call it
22.
Yeah, let's call it like 22. Let's say they stay right around there. 22, 23 best in the playoff outcome. To trade from 22 or 23 up to, let's say on the clock, they know Jeanty's there at 8. That's going to cost a boatload. Are the Chargers? The Chargers going to pay that price tag for an RB when he's a system guy? Let's draft Scatterboo. Let's go get. Could they draft Scatterboo at 23, 24? It's possible. He'll probably go in round 2. But you never know. You never know. First of all, Gavin, I don't know if you're new here. When he says Scatterboo isn't a first rounder, come on now. You don't know what he is. It's January 7th, bro. Like, combine, all the hype. You have no idea where he's going to climb yet. So. Your evaluation as of right now, Gavin, is that he's not a first rounder. And that's probably the consensus feel because he's projected as a running a round 2 guy. But you don't know. You don't know where he's going to go. He absolutely could climb to the bottom of round number 1. He could be at 27, 28, 29. It just, a lot depends on workouts and the hype. And, bro, a lot can happen. And he did everything he could to raise his stock up to get into the bottom of round 2. But you have no clue whether he's going in round 2. Just because you've been told over and over and over, running backs don't go in round 1. Running backs don't deserve to go in round 1. Teams don't value running backs. Look at Gibbs and Bijan last year, bro. Both top 15 players, one at number 8 overall. So, you just don't know. Scatterboo is absolutely the kind of player that someone like San Francisco would move up for it, 28 overall. Move up into the first round, take him at 28 overall. Scatterboo is absolutely the kind of player that, the Chargers could move down in the first round to take,
Yeah.
Or he could go at the very top of round 2.
You get to the back end of round 1 and teams start flipping picks left and right and trading spots and moving around and trying to get extra picks, and anything can happen once you get down.
The thing is, it's up for debate because we don't. Gavin, you're not listening. Smitty, he won't go in the. He will go in the second. He won't go in the second round. What do you say, wager? We don't know where he's gonna go. He could get hurt, bro. He could have a horrible combine showing. That's my point. He could go round 1. He could go round 2. He could go round 3. It's all up for debate. It depends on him, not me. It depends on him. But for you to say, come on, bro, he's not going in round 1, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous stance. He could absolutely go at the
married to mock drafts already.
Yeah,
They're already married to him.
Yeah. But anyway, it's going to be exciting. The question is, how many wide receivers go in round 1? Is it going to be 4? Is it going to be 5? Is it going to be, what would be shocked? And it'll probably be at least 4. But it could be 6. It could be 5. Yeah. I think Ted McMillan and Hunter is going to be a huge debate. And then I got my wide receiver ranking video coming soon, so I don't want to steal from it and ruin the surprises. But the wide receiver ranking video is coming. I've already made it very abundantly clear that Ted and Hunter are in my top 3. But I just want you to know there are other wide receivers in this draft class that could climb into the number 2 spot. There's a chance that Travis Hunter falls because of all the off the field stuff that's going on with his girlfriend and the drama and just people worrying about this guy's judgment right now. I like Travis Hunter. He's a good kid, but he is in a lot of news right now, and that can affect draft stock and all that. But I think he'll still go high. The mere fact that he can play corner and receiver, and the mere fact that he wants to play both, and it's funny that some people say he won't even play a receiver in the NFL, and they just, they hear it from other people too, and they just repeat it. And some people say there's no way he plays both sides of the ball. That's not a lock at all. He might go to the coach that says, you do what you want to do. And if I'm a coach, I don't look at the past or say, hey, this guy could get hurt. If my player wants to play both sides of the ball, and I'm essentially drafting Travis Hunter, let's say at let's call it number 4 overall to the New England Patriots, which is a great topic for you. So the New England Patriots take a wide receiver, which you need very badly, so Drake May can develop. And now I also hand you a top 5 rookie cornerback. That's unbelievable value. Value that makes Travis Hunter arguably the number 1 overall pick. If you're talking about value, you get a top 5 cornerback, rookie cornerback. You get a top 5 rookie cornerback. You get a top 1 to 3 wide receiver. Like, that's unbelievable. And when people say he can't play, he won't play both sides of the ball, they're just, again, regurgitating what they're hearing out there from other people. You don't know what's going to happen yet.
In biasly, as a Patriots fan, I would say that would be a great spot for him because they're probably going to sign a receiver or bring someone else in as well. And then on top of that, they have Christian Gonzalez at corner right now. So they could stick him next to him, and it's just, a good spot. He could, because Patriots aren't winning a Super Bowl next year, but he could come in and play both positions at the NFL level and kind of ease in. And I think it would be foolish for a team not to let him try to do it.
Yeah, it'd be ridiculous. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he shakes free the potential problem that's right now in his life causing. Look, he's going to be handed fame like he's never seen before. So odds of him, even entertaining, not moving on from that, entertaining it at least is slim to none. Look at Look at CeeDee Lamb with his phone. Remember the phone grab on draft day? That was the best. His girl tried to grab his phone, and he grabbed it right back from her, and he had two phones. He's going to get the kind of fame that's going to be able to let him, be in a position to choose how to move forward with that. But anyway, let me hit these super chats real quick, Travis. Phone line's open if anybody wants to dial in. Fernando, HN for pick 1.1 and 1.7. They have the 1.32. If this is a especially I guess if it's a super flex, but I'm assuming it's a non-super flex, I would rather have Jeanty than Achane, and in a dynasty format where I'm getting to start over, the mileage is at 0. I love Achane, I love him, but I think Jeanty's the next Adrian Peterson. So if you're telling me I get the 1.7 and I get Jeanty for Achane, I'm doing that. No doubt about it. I would love to move the 1.7 up eventually in another trade, but that's for another conversation. But I would do that. It's debatable for sure. Like, I love Achane. I would hesitate a little bit. I'd have to have little rituals and say goodbye to him properly. But 1 QB dynasty rebuild. I have the 1.2, 1.9. Should I try to move them both for the 1.1? Absolutely. I think there's nothing better. 1.9 is good, but it's not something like 1.4 or 1.5. I would rather have the control. Because what if Jeanty tears his ACL, and then all of a sudden you now are at 1.2, which feels more like you're at 1.3 now. I want control, and not to mention there's a level of I think, security in Jeanty and ability that he can perform as the next top 5 running back, more so than I think any of those other players that will be left over. The drop-off between the 1.1 and the 1.2 is very, very big in my opinion. Very big. Like, if I equated it to a player, I would say like the 1.1 versus St. Brown versus a running back versus any second-round running back you name. Like, that's where Jeanty sits. You talk about the 1.2, it's now a mid-third rounder, maybe even 4th-round pick. Because you got Bucky, you got other players I'd rather have than the second-ranked running back or the first-ranked rookie wide receiver. I want Bucky over the top rookie wide receiver. I want Bucky over the second-ranked running back. I want Chase Brown over both of them. I want a plethora of players. So the 1.1 and 1.2 is a stark difference. Very, very big difference. There's no wide receiver. Like, if Jeremiah Smith was in this draft, let's say, like, that would be different. If you had like the version of what MHJ felt like last year, regardless of how he played, that type of value isn't really in this draft. So the 1.1 is by far and away more valuable than the 1.9 and 1.2, in my opinion. All right, go ahead, Travis. And real quickly, let me hit the phone line number here. Guys, dial in.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, for a while with the Patriots, they were talking about they got to get a lineman, which I've always said I prefer to. I think you can build the line elsewhere with draft picks and signings and stuff. But you don't see? Do you see any world where the Patriots trade back and try to get 2 players in the first round? Because
yes.
I don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
I feel like it could.
I think.
And
yeah.
It's just so hard to maneuver. Like, if they could grab a lineman and then take, pick Luka from Ohio State, okay, might be working with something, but so often I'd rather just take the guy that you're pretty confident is the guy,
I think anytime you're dealing with a team that is not one move away, and the Patriots are not one move away, they're multiple moves away. Right. They're a head coach move away. They're a wide receiver, an offensive line, and
linebacker,
yeah.
Offensive line, yeah.
And I'm not saying I would trade away from the idea of getting a defensive back in Hunter and a wide receiver in Hunter. I would like that, but I'm saying envisioning a team trading down, it usually is a team that has more than one move. And a lot of people have said the Commanders were multiple moves away, but I disagreed with that. At the time, I disagree with it now. Clearly, yeah, I think at the end of the day, who was right? We were right. Like, the Commanders were ready to ball right away. But I don't feel that way about the Patriots. They're more than one move away, but they're in good hands. I mean, Drake May looked phenomenal for given what he was handed. I think if you put Drake May in Atlanta, he looked like a freaking monster, just like Penix Jr.'s, prepping to look like. So, Drake May just needs weapons. You need a good coach. I think it was great that they're moving forward on that. I think Vrabel would be the best option in New England personally, but we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, hopefully you don't trade down, but you very well could. I'd rather mortgage future draft picks and move those up into the places that you were trying to trade this into, and have that future pay for that value now while keeping this pick. But that's the way I trade and operate in fantasy football anyway. That's how I operate.
Like I said, it's hard to thread that needle, getting two guys in the first round. And the way I look at it, and this could be any team, in a similar situation, like you said, even if they're multiple moves away, they're pretty certain they have the quarterback. So for now, you do what you need to do to make sure he keeps progressing to reach that ceiling. And then if that means you got a crap defense and you got to figure it out, fine. But
look at Joe Burrow.
Wide receiver, line, right?
Yeah, Joe Burrow.
And that's something they have to.
Defense is the last thing I'm addressing if it's me. I want to exactly what you said, to take care of and first of all, protecting May, keeping him healthy, not tearing an ACL is more important than the defense. But the defense is, next up in line. But just like Burrow's, they're trying to take care of Burrow first and foremost. And they probably will in the offseason with T. Higgins. We'll see if T. Higgins even goes anywhere. There's a really good chance right now that Joe Burrow is going to say, hey, if I got to restructure, I want to keep T. Higgins. And Burrow's that kind of guy. Burrow doesn't care. Burrow would take a huge pay cut to keep T. Higgins and just say, more money than I'll ever spend. That's Joe Burrow. He's a dog. So I think there's a real good chance that T stays in Cincinnati now. It feels very, very much like that could happen. Yeah. But what a dumb move by the Bengals, just like we said in the offseason, to allow Jamar Chase to go get the Triple Crown, and now you got to pay him. You're spending so much more than you were going to. What a dumb move by the Bengals. So
you just do that over and over with players.
Yeah. I forget why I pulled this board up. What was I saying? New England. So New England, they need to do what they're doing with Joe Burrow. They're not addressing the defense. They're going to address T. Higgins first. And look where they're at. Look where the Bengals are at. They're a team that if they almost now granted they fell short, right? So of course, they need to do some things to change that. But look how close they got. They will address the defense. I just think that you can address it through second and third round picks and coaching more so than you can ever replace a player that Joe Burrow sees as his T. Higgins that he needs for his offense. So in the case of New England, you can address those defensive things in the second and third round, the concerns you have there. You've got to protect them. Offensive line quality is better than defensive, draft capital that I think you could get gems and find some steals. You could on the offensive line too, but I'm protecting Drake May, keeping him off his back. And one of the biggest ways, like I told Hugh Jackson when the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase, is drafting a wide receiver helps keep this man upright because he has a defense being stretched. Right now, with no elite wide receiver commanding defensive attention, stretching the field, you've got crowded boxes, you got different formations than you would see than if you had a Jamar Chase. You put Jamar Chase, you take him, pluck him from the Bengals and put him on the Patriots. Guess who's getting sacked a whole lot less and has less pressure instantly? Drake May. So they need a wide receiver. A wide receiver protects the quarterback. As I told Hugh Jackson on my show, and he laughed at me, having a wide receiver that stretches the field is every bit as valuable protecting your quarterback than actually drafting an offensive lineman in round one. Not to mention, you're not forced to not take a lineman later. You're still getting a lineman. You just got to go value shopping. So value shopping on offensive linemen, because some really good linemen always fall to the top of round two. You could trade up into that spot. You could take them. So in the case of the Bengals, maybe they move around a little bit. The Bengals have the 17 overall pick. You can move that pick up in round 2 just a little bit by doing some sort of third round trade or whatever. But you draft a very crafty, or if let's say you were in a position where you want to draft an offensive lineman as the Bengals. I'm just giving an example. You would draft one at the top of 2 versus the wide receiver. This is why I said Jamar Chase was the pick. Not Penei Sewell, it was Jamar Chase. And I was right, and Hugh was wrong. New England, same thing. They need a wide receiver. They need an offensive line, first and foremost. All right, what else you got, Travis?
Not too much. Oh, do you think Najee leaves the Steelers? Just going back to the second one, possibly for Jeanty.
I think so. I don't know for Jeanty. They'd have to move up. It'd have to be a very strong.
No, I know.
But do I think he moves on?
Yeah. Just going off that, Najee. Just curious.
Probably.
He's an odd case. He's a strange case. I don't know what to think of him.
I mean, it'd be weird for this team to be like, hey, we're not picking up your 5th-year option, which they didn't, and they're letting him walk.
Right.
And then they sign him. I think, it could be. Yeah. It's still possible that they said, you got to prove it to us. And then he did, and they're like, damn, we should have picked it up, but now we're going to take you up on your wishes, and let's get you a contract. He might want to stay. It's hard to say. I think that most players in his position that had a pretty good year that felt disrespected because he didn't get his contract, they're willing to get wined and dined and listen and, go somewhere where they think, oh, I can go be the difference maker and turn this team around, grass is greener type of situation. I see him probably leaving. Aaron Jones is older. This is not a good running back free agent class at all. This is not a good free agent class really at all at the end of the day. Is Hollywood Brown a nice addition? Yeah, but will he be retained because the interest won't be so great? Will he be back in KC? If they win a Super Bowl, he probably will. Higgins, probably the biggest draw, but again, I think he goes back to Cincy. Godwin's coming off a major injury. Diggs is old, potentially washed, but a good addition, I suppose, for a team that needs a wide receiver. And you got Fields and Darnold. Darnold probably goes back to minute. Like, it's not. If Higgins goes back and Darnold goes back to their prospective teams, what do we got? We got Diggs and Godwin and injured Godwin, Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, Najee Harris. Like, this is nothing like last year. That's why I have it all on one screen. Last year I had a running back board, a wide receiver board, a quarterback board, a tight end board. It's like, man, let's put all this mediocrity on one board. Not that Higgins is mediocre, but like, it just feels like collectively it doesn't feel good.
Everyone's got big question marks attached to them. Yeah, a lot on those.
But maybe some release. Once we have Cousins released, maybe we have like some running backs get cut. Then maybe we have a better board. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'll add to it, of course.
Yeah. So what did you say you're doing your starting position breakdowns next week or something for the draft?
Yeah, I'll have the rookie wide receiver video up. I think this week.
Okay.
Quarterbacks, I'll try by the weekend.
To ask my other questions.
Yeah. All right, I'll be back tonight. Be there midnight-ish for the fantasy football court. All right, later.
Bye.
All right, guys, I'll see you for fantasy football court tonight about midnight-ish. Benji with the $5 hauler. Follow-up question to last. 1 QB Dynasty, how much would you add to the 1.2 to move up? I have that guy's 26 first, so top 4 pick next year. 1.9 for a 26 first. Okay, so you're saying add the 26 first rounder to move up to one spot? You can't do that. You can't add a 26 first rounder, the 1.9 and the 1.2 to get the 1.1. That's way too much. But would I give up the 1.9 and the 26 first? Yeah, but I think you're asking to add it. Would I do the 26 first rounder and the 1.2 for the 1.1 and keep the 1.9? Maybe. Look, Jeanty's that good. What if you get the 4 pick next year? Then it's even better than the trade of, or it's not better, but it'll look better to you then than wondering if it's the 1.2, 1.4. I mean, what if it's 1.6? What if it's the same pick, 1.9? What if you're wrong about his team? What if he makes some trades? I don't know, bro. That's a tough one. I'd probably say I'd give up a future first round pick that's unknown with the 1.2 to get the 1.1 to take Jeanty. I probably would do that, but I wouldn't give the 1.9 up as well. You're giving up the world. It's too much. Too much. All right, guys. Don't forget, tonight, this debate kicks off. Be there or be square. About midnight-ish tonight. See you all then.
Mr. London, what seems to be the problem?
I've been a little off. Can't seem to get things going, if you know what I mean.
I think I have just the thing for you, Mr. London.
Got him.